Welcome to the Archotechs, a RimWorld fluid ideology series about pursuing the Archonexus. Episode 3, Slavery. Accompanying this episode is a tutorial about slavery and suppression mechanics. The link to that video can be found in the description or at the top right of your screen. To quickly recap last episode, we made a focus of trying to get a ritual room all squared away so that we can have positive outcomes for our rituals, developing our fluid ideology. We also captured Allocerba, and I would like to improve her accommodations so that it is easy to recruit her. So what I'm going to do here is lay out a prisoner processing facility, but not complete the facility, thereby benefiting Allocerba. This will make more sense later on, but eventually what I'm going to do is to have a little prisoner processing facility built like this, where I have tiny little quarters here, 2x2 or 2x3 cells. The reason I like 2x3 cells is when you have prisoners and they berserk, they fight each other rather than fight the door, which is definitely better. But instead of building this the way it is now, I'm going to cut these walls out and just let Allocerba have the entire structure to herself, which is going to help reduce her resistance more quickly so that we can recruit her more quickly. Also, once Trustin gets up, I'm going to hit him with work drive in 3 hours. Another thing I'd like to do is to have Bunny start to sow or harvest the crop. And that way we'll be able to get some fine meals instead of the simple meals. So taking a look at our meal, let's do some assignments here. For now, I'm not going to bother with detailed assignments for clothing. I'll do that later. For medicine, it will be doctor only, no meds for now. The food restrictions for everything is all set up, but I'm going to delete all the other food restrictions and set up my own. So a new one for fine meals, and fine meals is going to be, well, fine meals. And then a third for simple meals. And this is going to be, of course, for simple meals. And that way I can have a different quality meals for different people. My drug policy is also going to be set to no drugs currently, because I don't really have any drugs to use. And I'm going to delete all the other policies here. So everybody is on a no drug policy for now until I start to be able to process my own drugs. The next step is to change the simple meals over from any ingredient to potatoes only, and then to queue up a fine meal queue to be able to make some fine meals for people where we don't include fungus or animal products. We don't include human meat or insect meat, which is by default, and that is for the fine meals. So Bunny will start making better meals for everybody. The prisoners should not be given a better bed than what we have. So I'm going to have Trustin switch the beds around a little bit. So Sven's going to get an excellent bed, allowing him to spend more time researching. And then we will complete this little prison cell. I'm not going to add floors just yet. Nothing really has floors. They're a luxury that I currently cannot afford. And then we'll get Allocerba out of her last accommodations into the new ones. And that should improve her mood a little bit quicker to reduce her resistance more quickly to be able to recruit her more quickly. And Allocerba will be fed fine meals, and then everybody else will be fed fine meals. The only reason to use simple meals would be for people that I had no intention of recruiting. Another thing that I could do for her is to set up a Tailor Bench, because she's currently naked, and she's going to want clothing as soon as she joins. So we'll get a Tailor Bench to be able to start making clothing for her. Sven, let's trust him with work drive. And then Trustin is going to be queued with finishing the ritual room, which we're going to want to add pews to. There's 2 pews, and then once we have a larger population, I can add 2 more. You can also add them sideways too. Plenty of room for future furniture. So the pews are coming first, and he has a 3-day work drive, which will help him complete this faster. The intention here is to have a ritual room that is impressive enough to be able to potentially have a positive outcome for rituals like conversion and the other ones that we have. And Alicerba here is... Here, let me hit her with a solar pinhole to keep her a little bit warmer in the room. Because that is a slightly cold room, and she doesn't need to be hypothermic. Easy enough to just use a psycast to correct that. I think I'm going to briefly have Sven plant cut for me and grow so that I can get more of this potato harvest. The thing is, potatoes have a lifespan, and once they exceed this lifespan, they actually die in the fields. So if you don't harvest them fast enough, you end up not being able to harvest them ever, you know, because they'll rot. And I don't want my crops rotting in the fields. I spent good time sowing it and waiting for it to grow. So we'll get it harvested. Oh, we have a raid. Thug crew. So they're pirates. All 3 are brawlers. We have Ismail, a greedy, trigger-happy, high combat skills, but older, so possibly health condition? Yes. Lachi, brawler, night owl, Vol, and super bass, or super bass, I don't know which. Incapable of dumb labor. Yeah, I don't want to recruit any 3 of these, but I wouldn't mind having them as slaves to be able to either sell or donate to the Shattered Empire for honor. Either way works for me. So they'll be incoming in a minute. So potentially this prison cell is going to turn into a barracks. And then we also have a bulk goods trader who might get caught up in the middle. This is the kinship of Brielle. And if these guys are pirates, everybody hates pirates. And nope, here they come. I don't think they're going to be joining this time. Or helping to defend me this time, I should say. So I turned on my turrets here. And I'm just going to stand behind them. They're brawlers, so I don't really need cover. And Sven, let's hit a solar pinhole. Just so that we can move around a little faster than they can. Alright, downed. That is ideal. Missing along, but alive. It's much better than dead. And let's go after Ismail. Trustin, you tend. Sven, you tend. Bunny chase down Ismail. And through. Oh, whoa, they got back up. Let's punch to limit the... Oh, we punched him to death. Okay, well, good job, Trustin. I'll rip his skull out instead. And Bunny is chasing down the frail one. For a killing blow. At least that will keep her happy for a bit. If we take a look at her needs, she killed someone plus 12 for 4 days is still pretty nice. So we do have one person to add, and I'll be giving them a sleeping spot here. And then I'll create a wall there to keep them separated. So let's have Trustin get that built. So 1 of 3. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. It could have been worse. And here comes the bulk goods trader. Oh, Trustin. Complete, dude. Finish the job. There we go. captured. And let's also trade with the buckets trader. Because why not? What do we have? We have survival meals that I could sell them. And bird skin, lizard skin. I could sell them. Sheeple pants, sure. And that's about it. It's really not much. So this prisoner here will be converted to practice our social skill. But taking a look at them, not someone that I am likely to want to add to the community. Not really. As they really only brawl, and they're volatile, so they're just going to get in social fights. So, this prisoner here will be given simple meals instead of anything and everything. A subset. And let's start to get skull spikes. So people in our community will be happy with skull spikes. So I'll queue some of those up as well. And trust them, we'll get them constructed. Alicerba's resistance is basically nothing. It's near zero. And as soon as this is ready to go, as soon as this is completed for construction, I will do a conversion ceremony. Hopefully... Whoa, Lachi already converted. That was fast. I'll reduce resistance now. First, this is a social skill. Was not expecting such a fast convertee. A Mad Gazelle. Okay. Free food. It's coming for Trustin, though. Let's help protect Trustin. I thought it was going to go for the Buckets Trader, which is why I ignored it. Oh, Trustin gets clipped in the shoulder. It's annoying. Sven, or Bunny, rather, preach health. I didn't do that exactly safely, but hey, it could have been worse. And Sven, let's kill off the Gazelle. Okay, he'll be healed pretty soon because he's got preach health and he'll be on his feet in no time. Okay, he's all tended to, so I'm going to have him sent right back to work. Alicerba is a resistance of 0, which means she would join us if I asked her to. But I do want to get the conversion ritual first. Got my priorities. The other thing I'm going to want for her is shirt and pants. Because once she joins us, she's going to want clothing because it's part of our ideology. So, with the plain leather that I have, I will make shirt and pants. At this point, all of the overhead mountain is now filled in, I believe. Yep, it's all filled in so that I can't suffer infestations, at least not next to the base. I'm going to put Sven back on plant cut and growing, or off of plant cut and growing, back on research, rather, and have him push along the microelectronics yet again. And here is the shirt and pants for Alicerba once Alicerba decides to join. I'm also going to hit this prison cell with Soul Pain Hole. Just because I can. So Trustin is cutting stone for the lectern. And after this cut, we'll have enough stone to queue up that lectern. And that's the last thing we need in the ritual room in order to try to finish the conversion of Alicerba so that Alicerba joins us. Looking around the map, there's still some stuff to hunt. I'd ideally like to have Trustin heal up a little bit more before hunting, as he's been wounded. Let's have him be able to eat too. And Bunny, let's start ripping skulls out of people. Laborers from West Hinia. She's asking me to lend a colonist for one colonist for 6 days. This actually might be something good to accept when Alacerba joins us. And we're getting raided from Brio people. A bow person and 2 brawlers with knives. Ideally, being able to enslave some more. That would be great. Imprison some additional. They're preparing a while, so they'll come to me. I won't go to them. So with this lectern built, this ritual room is just about ready for a conversion ritual, but obviously with raiders coming in, I don't have the luxury of being able to run that ritual before they arrive. So here they come. They're coming this way, interestingly enough. And the Roga, the bow person, is going to be my primary target here. Alright, let's back up. She's pretty wounded. And we'll switch targets. Alright, dead. Let's not get stabbed if we can help it. Oh, stabbed once. And not a big deal. Just light cracks. Let's go after Roga while we strip out the skulls of the enemies that we had downed. I'd like to be able to grab her as a prisoner, if possible. And no, she's dead too. Okay, well, there was an attempt. Didn't go well. But no fault of my own. Now I may, in the future, once I'm a little bit more wealthy, design a base defense that allows me to add recruits more easily. That's not something I have the ability to do at the moment. But things like stone deadfall traps are pretty effective, or blunt weapons are pretty effective once I have a brawler that's well armored so I don't get killed trying to bludgeon people unconscious. There's definitely a lot of options to be able to try to convert people like that. So when everybody is up in the morning, the plan is to try to run a conversion ritual for Alacerba, getting her to join us. We'll baptize her in a way with a new name and add her to our colony. We're also getting a whole lot of skulls for our room here. It looks like everybody's up, so as soon as this meal is done, what are we making there? Oh, this is fine meals. Okay, that's fine. Just making sure that it wasn't simple meals out of meat, because we have a very limited amount of meat. All right, let's go ahead and run the conversion ritual. Oh, you know what? It's on cooldown. So I can't do that at the moment. And I'm going to try to enslave Lychee. I might as well have Lychee work for us. And then, if I'm offered the chance to sell Lychee, I will do that. So here we go. This is the enslavement. A wheel of 0, so the next time I talk to Lychee, we'll be able to enslave him. One of the things that is important when you're dealing with slaves is you need to suppress them. They're suppressed by skull spikes, and they are suppressed by gibbet cages and also terror sculptures. They're also going to be suppressed wearing certain clothing. So to that end, let's make a slave body strap and make a slave collar. So the slave body strap we'll make out of, we need 70 ingredients. Let's go hunting for those ingredients because we're also low on meat. So I'm going to draft everybody and we'll head out to the gazelles. And then the slave collar here, we will make out of steel and plain leather as well. Keeping it cheap. I don't want to invest good resources into slave clothing. Especially not a slave that we don't intend to keep long term. So 1 day cooldown on Alacerba's conversion. Let's construct some gibbet cages for Lachi to be suppressed. And the slave body strap, we are going to need a little bit more plain leather or something else, maybe bird leather. So let's draft everybody and hunt some birds. Where? Here's one. Man, that's pretty far away. There's an iguana there. Okay, well, I'm just going to undraft them. All the other animals are really far away and it's getting dark. Oh, she's going for the hunt. Let me cancel that hunt for now. I'm not going to do the hunting at night. So the easy way to do that is to right-click go to Orders, right-click on Hunt, and cancel all designations. That cancels every hunt on the map at once. Which is easier than individually canceling them. All my people are fully healed, which is good. And Alacerba's conversion ritual will kick off in 16 hours. So about 3 p.m. tomorrow will be the attempt. Now, another thing that's important to do is to keep prisoners away from weapons. When they are within the vicinity of a weapon, roughly 8 tiles or so, it will give them ideas of rebellion. So that's another important thing to do, which is a little tricky to do because every time you're raided, there's going to be weapons dropped in the map. So zone restricting your slaves is very, very important for that reason, because being able to give them free reign over everywhere means that they're going to be constantly in contact with weapons, and that will encourage them to rebel. And now we're starting to put bodies in gibbet cages. So these gibbet cages offer terror. Terror helps to keep slaves in line and keep them from rebelling. And Lychee now has converted, and I'm going to have to change his bed from prisoner to slave and assign it to him. Then I'm also going to want to, as you can see, he's going for clothing that he's not allowed to wear. So I'm going to need to make a new outfit here. Call it slave, and slaves will be able to wear slave collars and slave body straps only. Okay, well, nice try, but no. No pants. And slaves are also only going to be offered simple meals, not fine meals. And with Lychee here, I'm not going to give slaves names. They're just going to be called slaves for now. So you're just slave. But what we'll be doing with him is forcing him to plant for us. So I've set growing as a top priority, and he'll sow the fields for us. All right, Trustin, looks like you need something better to do with your time other than to cut stone. So the slave body strap requires a little bit extra leather. We're going to have our hunters go for that. Now, there's other slave suppression mechanics at play that I have to consider as well. So if we mouse over it, it will read what it is. So right now, his suppression is dropping 5% per day because he does not have a slave body strap on, which is exactly why I'm hunting animals that I can turn into leather to make the body strap. So let's get these birds killed. And then another thing I'm going to want to do is to set it up so that the slave cannot be near weapons. So that's the next step. All right, and there was one more emu down there. Sven, start going back with this one. Bunny and Trustin will kill the other one. And this is just about all of the animals except for iguanas left on the map tile. Very limited biome. Uh-oh, this one's gonna nip. And there we go. Not so bad. Bunny gets patched up quickly. And then we'll haul the others back in. So in order to keep the slaves in line, like I said, I am going to need some sort of storage room to keep them away from weapons. So I'm going to set up said storage room sort of up here. A very, very crude weapon storage room like that. And I'm going to put the weapons as a high priority in there and then prevent that area from being zoned to by the slaves. So the slaves can never be around weapons. Now, we outnumber this slave 3-1, so I'm not really worried about the slave rebellion now, but it will become more of an issue later on if I have a colony full of slaves. That could be a tough to quell that rebellion. So it's important to, and let's make this out of limestone. It's important to plan for the future when, you know, if you're going to incorporate slaves, to make sure that you are not setting yourself up for disaster in that way. Where's Trustin going? Oh, grabbing steel. I'm going to need to send Bunny to go mine some steel pretty soon. So Bunny is shivering. It might be worth getting a little bit more warm clothing. So I'm also going to queue up dusters. Dusters aren't as warm as parkas, but they protect a little bit better than parkas. As you can see, he is just harvesting or planting. All right, Alicerba, I sort of missed your conversion ritual. I'm going to kick it off in the middle of the night, provided this room is clean, and it is. So let's try, because that will add one more person to our community. And as you can see, the slave is spectating this, which increases participants, which is good. Because despite the fact that he's a slave, he's still technically an architect, which means it improves the odds of a positive result. And it worked. It was effective, and that gave us more development points. Fantastic. So here is a perfect example. See this slave right here? The slave rebellion interval, once he's around weapons, is 36 days. And then as soon as he's not around weapons, it's 1.4 years. Clearly, keeping weapons away from slaves makes it much, much, much easier to keep your slaves suppressed. So Alicerba, now that you've converted, we are going to recruit you. And I am going to need a bed for you. So we'll set one up here. And I think what I'm going to do is eventually have this be a stockpile for basically everything. But not one that the slave can enter. Oddly enough, this slave is very, very happy. It's one of the benefits. Slaves don't require recreation, and they have much lower expectations, so it's a lot easier to keep them happy. But because they rebel when they're around weapons and when they have weapons equipped, they aren't really good for combat. And then if you take a look at their work priorities, they can't hunt. Slaves will never do this kind of work. They can't warden. They can't do art. So they're also very limited, and they can't research. They're also very limited to their work. So don't bother trying to recruit a slave that is a really good artist, because they'll never do art as a slave. And Alicerba just joined us, and Alicerba is going to be named after one of my patrons, Zleb. I'm also going to get a proper weapon for Zleb in just a minute here. And let's send Zleb up to have work priorities of hunting, also growing and plant cutting. And then Bunny here is going to start mining big time. More steel for a SMG for Zleb. So this little weapon room is just about done, and what I'm going to do is set up kind of everything to go in there. And I'm going to force everybody in the community to haul as a top priority to put things in here. And in here won't be foods except for packaged survival meals and insect jelly. I guess fertilized eggs is okay too, not that we have any. And then once that's all hauled away, we'll be able to more easily suppress our slave. And I'm going to set up some additional gibbet cages for Bunny to entomb or stick the corpses into the gibbets to suppress the slave further. Alright, so it looks like the slave body strap... yeah, I need to butcher these birds for more bird skin. That's what's going on. So I'll create a new zone. Call this slaves. And slaves eventually will not be allowed in there. And now that I've hauled everything out of the main base, the slave will be set to slaves zone. Now, I'm not intending to keep this slave for very long. I intend to donate or sell or whatever, which is why I'm not giving him a name. But if I do recruit a slave that I do intend to keep, they'll get proper names rather than just slave. Just not naming the ones I don't care about. Let's get that slave body strap going. So a slave body strap is pretty straightforward. Just craft that up real quick, and that will help keep him, you know, suppressed. Okay, so here comes that strap. And then in the morning, it would be a good time to try other rituals, namely the invitation ritual for Psi Focus, because I have 5 participants now instead of the 3. So our chance for a positive ritual goes up. Now the other issue is the slave can't enter that stockpile, so I have to put the slave body strap on like this, because they're not allowed in there. Eventually, I will create multiple stockpiles, one to separate out the weapons. And let's root this up. I'm being offered a gargantuan structure for honor. Sure. Give that to Sven. And this structure is far from gargantuan. And I will set it up here. And we'll build this with limestone. That's another thing the slaves can help once the fields are sown. So let's take Bunny off of that and let the slaves do it. And Zleb too. And Zleb, I'm going to send you after iguanas. So now we're starting to get more steel for the gibbet cages to suppress the slave. And if you take a look here, the slave suppression fall rate is down to 0 per day. So that's because they have the collar and the body strap. And certain other clothing will increase the suppression fall rate, like dusters and the like. So you have to be careful what you allow them to wear, because some clothing will encourage them to rebel. Especially armor and royal clothing. And the relevant clothing will have information about it that provides that information. So once this duster is made, you'll see that the duster encourages them to rebel. Accompanying this episode, I'll also have a slave suppression mechanic tutorial as well. So now Bunny and Zleb are helping to suppress. And as soon as I get a little bit more steel from Bunny's mining attempts, I will get a heavy SMG made for Zleb. So, take a look at the duster here. Slave suppression offset is -5. So, it encourages the slave to rebel. Something definitely to be avoided. Alright, let's take them off of Hull, so they can start to do more fulfilling work. And I'm going to leave this bed empty, even though our slave could benefit from it, obviously. They are botching a lot, but I don't really care, because what I'm going to do is just expand the grow zone immensely. So the other thing I'd like to do is to get hops in for beer brewing, but currently none of my slaves know how to grow hops. So as they level up doing this work, they'll be able to put hops in the ground. And once we start to have hops sown, I'll go to the effort of researching brewery, which shouldn't take too long. It's a pretty straightforward research project. So trust in here is getting the gibbet cages constructed so we can put corpses in them. And you're going to want enough gibbet cages to suppress your slaves sufficiently. And there is an aura radius, or whatever you want to call it, of suppression. So you might need a lot of them, is all I'm going to say. And I'm not doing the ship to the stars. We're doing the Archonexus, so I can ignore that entirely. Once these cages are constructed and these corpses are interned, I think additional mini turrets would be wise. I do suspect that I'll be attacked. And here we go. We have a little bit of a monument. And this monument, if it's damaged, wargs come to seek vengeance. But that brings Sven's up to 1 yeoman to 4 yeomen. He's closing in on Acolyte. Once we get to Knight, I'll be able to trade freely with the Empire, which is a really good thing. The last thing I'm going to do this episode is to kick off the Archic invitation and hope that it is positive. We have 3 of the 10 development points, and if this is best possible, we can get up to 5. And it was unforgettable. Everybody that participated gets a +8 mood for 6 days, which is incredible. We did gain the 2 development points, bringing us up halfway to being able to reform our ideology. And that is all the time I have for episode 3. If you have any feedback for me, let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to chat about this in real time, please consider joining Discord. The link is in the description. Additionally, as I mentioned, I will accompany this episode with a little bit of a primer about slavery and suppression. So look for that if you're interested. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next episode. Farewell, everybody.